This is all you need. It predicts the future, Morty. With this, we can play the intergalactic stock exchange and make more money than we could spend in a lifetime. I'm completely aware of how legal it is, Morty. Today on the Comic Book Report, the Rick and Morty Compendium, Volume 1, from Oni Press. Stick around and check it out. Greetings and welcome in, everyone. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we are back in the world of Oni Press. This time we're taking a look at a paperback compendium for Rick and Morty. Whether you're a longtime fan of the television series or you've been a fan of these comics, I'm really eager to talk about this collection today. Before we jump into the book review, though, I would like to just shout out our contact at Oni Press for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. And as always, I'd like to shout out the channel sponsor, Panel Bound Comics. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to it in the video's description, and if you see anything on that site you like, you can even use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's Rick and Morty review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The comics in this volume were written by Zac Gorman, with art from C.J. Cannon. The issues in this volume were published by Oni Press beginning in 2015. The volume itself collects Rick and Morty, the 2015 series, issues 1 through 15. And finally, this is a standard size trade paperback edition with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 376 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's paperback compendium from Oni Press. Up top, we of course have Rick and Morty in their stylized font. We have this deranged picture of Rick right in the front center, and little images all throughout scattered in the background. We have a brief blurb review and Compendium Volume 1 listed at the bottom. I think overall this is a really exciting design for a paperback compendium, and I'm happy to say subsequent volumes have different characters in front, so the set looks pretty uniform in a way. On the spine, we do have the Oni Press logo at the top, followed by Rick and Morty Compendium, and at the bottom we have V1, noting Volume 1, with a cool green portal behind it. Overall, this is a very sleek spine, it looks great on a bookcase, and overall, I have no complaints. Now on the back cover, we have kind of a portal design on the right side. We have a bit of a blurb or review up top, some picture windows. We have what's collected. We have a description about it. We have the Oni Press logo, pricing information, the Adult Swim logo. Again, pretty standard back of collection fare. I love that we get a lot of art here. The design work in this collection I thought was exceptional. And now for all you prospective collectors out there, I did want to show a quick look at this book's binding. So as I mentioned, it is a glued binding. Overall, the pages laid down okay. I maybe had a little bit of gutter loss, nothing too critical, but I'm happy to say this binding for me is not going anywhere. The pages were all really sturdy here, and yeah, overall a pretty satisfactory binding for a glued paperback collection. Okay, and now that we've gone over the build of the book, we can jump into the book proper. And after some fun end pages here, a title page, publication information page, we eventually get to the first chapter or issue. It's noted with a title and a part 1. It shows us the creators, and then we jump right into the issue itself. I should say how this book is constructed. We don't have the issue cover, which would have been a great addition to the collection. We don't even have them in the back, unfortunately, but we do have these nice chapter breaks that denote who worked on the issue, the title of the issue, things like that. So it's still really easy to mark your place, figure out where you're at, what issue you're on, etc. But I would have loved to see those covers. At any rate, we do jump right into the first issue, the first storyline, and I'll say as far as how this compendium is sort of mapped out, it's issues 1 through 15. It's all pretty standard and straightforward there. We do have a lot of story arcs, though, that are multi-issue, and you can see that by the part 1, part 2, and so forth on these chapter breaks. We have some that feel more like a one-shot, but for the most part, this is more a collection of smaller arcs. Now, a lot of people might be asking, do I need to watch the series to enjoy this book? I do think a general background or foundation for this franchise might be helpful to enjoy this book in its fullest. However, I don't know that it's explicitly necessary. What I mean by that is if you've never seen the series and the concept of this just looked fun, you could probably pick this up and ultimately figure your way around the primary cast of characters. We have Rick, who is the grandfather figure to the young Morty, who is our other second build character. He's his grandson, who is just kind of an average young teenage boy. He's not as brilliant as his grandfather. He's in some ways kind of innocent, although Rick helps him to kind of age up in a lot of meaningful ways, of course. This is a humorous series. If you've never seen the show, it is like a sci-fi humor series. It does have more adult humor, language, some vulgarity, so be advised we do have shades of that as well in this comic. So I wouldn't recommend this to younger readers, but as always, reader discretion advised. As far as does this tie into any issues or arcs in the main series, for the most part, I'd say no. We do have some other dimensional Mortys or Ricks, but again, we don't have anything super consequential on that end. Then we also have characters or cameos that you are really obviously seeing in the main series, but again, not in a way that you feel alienated reading the comic. As a fan of the series, however, you will notice some characters, some supporting cast, and certainly some plot devices. Again, if you're going in just completely bare bones, the dynamic is kind of like a twisted, warped version of Doc Brown and Marty from Back to the Future. But here we have a grandfather-grandson relationship, and basically the grandfather is a genius alcoholic who invents portal technology that lets him kind of teleport to different universes, go through space, and because of that, he's one of the most well-known people in the multiverse. He's also hunted and maligned by many people, and he's kind of misanthropic or nihilistic in a lot of ways. He's a drunk, he has substance abuse issues, he's not a great grandfather in many ways, and then his grandson is just kind of along for the ride. He gets caught up in things and often gets over his head, but hijinks definitely ensue. Now, the art style we have throughout this book, for the most part from canon, is very, very recognizable from the series. While it's not a panel-for-panel remake of the art, the character models are very recognizable. Again, you won't feel alienated if you do decide to come from the main series, because you'll be able to recognize everyone right away, and I think the art style is pretty pitch perfect, if I'm honest with you. I've been very impressed with that so far. Now, you might be wondering about the writing as well, because the writing in Rick and Morty is usually very, very sharp, quick-witted, and I wasn't sure how that humor would translate across, especially since presumably we don't have a whole writer's room here. We don't have Dan Harmon. We have this comic writer, but I'm happy to say that this, again, it kind of feels like Rick and Morty. Maybe not as nuanced or layered as some of the joke writing in the series, but for a comic adaptation, I really do feel like it could stand in its own right. The characters feel decidedly themselves, and the fact that you have that character voice retained with art that looks similar, I do consider this a successful aspect or arm of the franchise. Story-wise, I'm not going to go into specifics for each story in this book, but we have something where Morty tries to abuse an intergalactic stock market at the behest of Rick. We have kind of a gladiator arena situation where Morty has to become this like fighter unwittingly. We have him become a version of Scary Terry at one point, going through people's nightmares. We have him often kind of going into other worlds with the use of the portal technology. We have him and Rick inside one of their decapitated frozen brains in a kind of subconscious world of Rick's before transitioning into Morty's head. This is a very fun way to approach a parallel universe sort of tale. I was really impressed by that. I think narratively that's probably the most sophisticated story arc in this book. Like I said, you do have kind of one-off features as well. We have one whole issue that doesn't even follow Rick and Morty, but follows characters, I believe, in a TV show within Rick and Morty or something like that. So a couple like in-jokes like that. I think the pacing for these issues is often quite good. I would say a lot of the issues seem to have kind of an abrupt ending. Maybe not the issues between multiple parts, but certainly the end of individual story arcs do feel like they end rather abruptly. Maybe it is in the same way the series kind of has episodes that end abruptly. I don't know. But I did notice that. Other than that, though, I do think the story construction is largely solid. There's a lot of fun tropes they undertake here. It definitely still feels very much in that sci-fi, light fantasy framework. And overall, I did leave this book feeling pretty impressed with how well it seems to adapt or extend off of that main television series. I generally am a little wary of comic books that are not the original intellectual property source. So, for example, with Rick and Morty, it started as a television series, and you have this kind of licensed offshoot adaptation. I'm always a little nervous about stuff like that, but every so often I'm proven wrong, and something stands alone as something pretty solid. I felt the same way about Star Wars by Jason Aaron over at Marvel, and I certainly feel that here with the Rick and Morty comics. I think if you're a fan of the series and you like the comic book medium, this might be a fun fit for you. Again, it is a bit vulgar. It's maybe a little bit vulgar for my personal taste, if I'm honest, but overall, like I said, I walked away from this book being kind of impressed. I think the issues are reproduced here beautifully. The colors jump from the page. The glossy print is awesome. I was really happy with the binding. Again, my only notes here is that this collection doesn't have the issue covers at the front of the issues or even collected in the back. And to that end, I would have also loved to see some extra material at the back of this book, but other than some solicits for other books and some creator bios with the history of kind of who is involved with creating Rick and Morty, we don't really have much by way of extras. And I think that that's something that could have padded out this collection and really bumped it up even more in my estimation. I think if you've never read these issues though and you're looking for a budget-friendly way to collect them, these paperback compendiums are certainly not a bad way to go. And collecting 15 issues in this one paperback, I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. And at the very back, we do have some of those solicits for other Oni Press Rick and Morty releases, as I mentioned earlier, and that really brings us to the end of the Rick and Morty Compendium Volume 1 paperback from Oni Press. Yeah, this was a really fun little venture into the world of Rick and Morty in this medium. Overall, I was very impressed by how well it adapted the material while being new stories. I really thought that that was impressive, but again, those are just a couple of my thoughts, and now the grade. For characters and stories that feel and look like their TV screen counterparts, the Comic Book Report gives Rick and Morty Compendium Volume 1 from Oni Press a B. I would consider this an above average read, especially if you like sci-fi, high comedy concepts, and don't mind some vulgarity. While I don't think these issues are as strong as the television series, I thought that they were pretty novel in their own right. I like that we had original stories here as well, and I'm curious to see where this line goes from here. While I missed having the covers for these issues and any real form of extras at the back, the issues are still lovingly reproduced here, and I think that this is a great format, particularly for fans of paperback. But let me know what you think of Rick and Morty, the comics, the television show, other releases from Oni Press, and more, all in that comment section. A huge thank you again to those at Oni Press for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review, and of course for all of the viewers out there for taking this journey right along with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, those comments we talked about, and maybe check out another one of my videos on your way out. Thanks everyone, bye.